So one of the things I really appreciate is innovation and people who think outside the box and people who create. And so recently I had the privilege of meeting Mr. Josef Kolbeck, who actually is a dental technician. He came to speak at the residency I work at to actually train some of the dental techs we have in our lab. And this guy's amazing. Like, he legit did a denture setup, and he was talking, mind you, in like less than 30 minutes. It was outstanding. And honestly, like, if he wasn't talking, I can only imagine how fast he could do the denture setup. And I'm pretty excited because this is really probably the first video that we've done on this channel that really relates to removable prosthodontics. So I wanted to kind of give you a quick introduction of what you're about to see and then kind of go from there. So Mr. Josef Kolbeck is actually a lab technician. He is a lecturer. He does kind of like traveling workshops like he did for us. He also is published in lab technician magazines, and he was nominated as one of the top 40 dental lab techs under the age of 40. And I mean, just an amazing guy, super nice, super approachable, super humble, very just down to earth, thankful, grateful guy. And so what he did was he actually developed what's called the OMP. Now the OMP stands for Occlusal Measurement Plane. Now he designed this so you can get more predictability and easier success when you're doing denture teeth arrangements and occlusal rims. You can do a lot of things with the OMP. You can do a cast analysis. You can make measurements on your occlusal wax rims. You can use it to set the denture teeth. You can use it to mark long axis of the teeth. There's so many uses for this. And on this specific tool, there's measurement devices for measuring specific things, such as you can measure from the smile line to the occlusal plane. You can measure the width of the maxillary posteriors. You can measure the posterior width of your occlusion rim. You can measure the anterior occlusal width of your occlusion rim. And you can also measure the appropriate heights for the occlusal rim for the maxillary and the mandibular wax rim. Now, as a dentist, I wanted to know how could this benefit me, because to be honest, I'm not really doing a whole lot of denture setups right now in my practice. And so he told me that if I had a device like this in my office, when I get the wax rim back from the lab, I can actually use this instrument to make some measurements of the wax rim and kind of give me an average value representation of the wax rim to start with for my patient. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you some of the footage we shot the day he did the workshop with us. He's actually gonna go through a denture setup. He's gonna set the maxillary and the mandibular denture teeth on an articulator using the OMP as kind of like a plane to set the maxillary teeth. And then at the very end of the video, he's going to show you just real quickly how he can do some very fast festooning of the denture. And so that will allow you to see his process for that. Now, one thing I want to mention is you're kind of seeing highlights of the day. He covered a lot of different things. If you have specific questions, I would encourage you to place those down below. I'm also going to link him on this video, link his channel, so go check him out, subscribe. We're actually talking about having him come back more in the future, do some future tutorials, various lab things or lab related processes that could be interesting and helpful to you if you're a dentist, if you're a lab tech, or if you're a dental assistant. All right, without further ado, let's check out Mr. Kolbeck and the OMP.
Analysis, right? Why it is important. It gave me some sort of guidance and some sort of points of reference that I'm gonna need from the beginning to the end of the case. The center of the ridge, right? That's very important one. Okay, but I mark this. The center of the ridge. There. Another one. This is a funny one because, see, we have the rugites, right? So I read that the bigger rugites will determine where is your canine going to be placed. Isn't that something? Now, if you grab your occlusal plane and you set it like that, see where those two rugites are? So more or less, my canine will be here, and this one will be around here, right? Points of reference. So I have an idea where more or less my canines will be. Now, of course, the frenums, when you're doing the base plates, you have to mark them, right?
Right.
Okay. Posterior palate seal, right? Now, when we have, for me, this is an average patient. Sometimes you have a very deep palate. If you have a very deep palate, that means you're gonna have good retention. So you don't have to make a big palatal post-dem seal. You can do a small one now because this is an average model. I'll do a small one. Yeah. Of course, my midline, right? It has to be marked first, and then this is my posterior palatal seal in this particular case. If you have a very flat ridge and barely nothing there, then I would suggest to do another type, which it will be like this. Why that? Because you are creating more seal. Because it will not retain by the ridge. It will retain only by the saliva, by the connection of the acrylic and the gum. So if you create this type of palatal seal, it will retain very well the dent. If, like I said, if you have a very deep one, then you do a small one, just a small one. All right. So a small one when you have a very deep palate. Go and set the upper wax rim. Remember, we already have the smile line, midline, canine line. Right. So we go like this, fold it, and then we go like this, right? Okay. More or less, I visualize where is my retromolar pad right here, and then I make sure this is kind of secure here, and then I go like this a little bit. I see I have a little bit of space. My pin is not touching there, so I gotta push it down a little bit. Now it's touching, right? What I'll do, remember, this is my occlusal plane.
Right.
This was already set by the doctor by using the Fox plane. That's what we always hope, right? The best way to do this is if you position it like this and you go like that, right? Now, important things. Okay, you're checking the retromolar pad right in this area here. More or less, I can see that is either in the middle of the retromolar pad area or the third portion of the retromolar area pad. Let me go back here. See, this is the retromolar pad area here,
Right.
and we have three parts here that always that is being from the theory. You have to divide it in three parts,
Right.
and then you'll have to position your occlusal plane right on that part. So it's kind of aligned. I like that, right?
Yeah.
You do that. Make sure your pin is in zero. Secure this very well. Fix it with the wax. You have to push it sometimes, and you can heat it up because this is an aluminum. Now, if you heat this up, it can become very hot, so be careful. But you can heat the wax. Okay. Right here. Let me just remove this pin for a moment because I want to show you this. You see what my midline is? You see this area of the OMP?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be aligned with the.
Okay.
Once you do that, you put it like that, you're sure. Well, let me just heat it up. It's important sometimes to do this. So it won't move on you, you know. It takes a little bit of time to secure it, but then when you're doing the setup, it's a time saving, you know. I heat it up like this. Right. You know, when you're seeing the patient like this way, there is a few things that in chair side the doctor pay a lot of attention. The buccal corridors.
Mm-hmm.
This is the buccal corridor view, and this is the buccal corridor view. Now, you don't want to set your left side out and this one in. You want to set them symmetrically, you know, like same position. How you do that? Remember, the doctor already gave you the nice shape of the biorhythm, right? He trim it. So what you do with your back marker is you go like this. So you can apply monomer and remove it. I believe with alcohol also, right? That will remove it, right? What else you want to mark?
You want to mark
The canine lines, right?
canines, yeah.
Yeah. So you go like this. That's your canine mark. You put a point there. Then you go here. You put another point here. Okay, that is all marked there. We have this secure. I think it's very well secure. Then you remove your wax rim. Right? Ready to set. Now, what can you do from here? You can control if your base is too thick. If your base is too thick, trim it, trim it, trim it, trim. Sometimes you know what I do? I go through.
Yeah.
Because you know I don't care about the base plate. I care about the structure of the teeth. Because the base is gonna be in acrylic, but I need more structure here, because if you grind too much the teeth, they will be weak, or they will wear down very fast. Oh, you know what else is important? To have study models of the patient existing denture. You either want to do it similar to that one, same like that one, or different than that one. If you don't have it, how you gonna guess? No, right? So it's important to have it. To have study models, photographs, and information about the patient. Why you need the photographs also? Because for the freedom thing, you also need it for the shape of the face. That way you can choose rounded shaped teeth, square ones, or ovoid, square ovoid, all these type of. Okay, I have my base plate, and I'm gonna start setting my first teeth. I always start with the right one. If you're a lefty, you can start with your left with 8. Doesn't matter. After that, that's my base plate, right? So I am gonna do like a little roll here.
Right.
Right. Okay, so I start with number 9, and then remember midline. Okay, so first thing with the number 9, or with the incisals, all the incisals need to touch the plate. Okay, and then if some area is higher than the other one, that means it's tilted. If it's tilted, that's the long axis of the tooth. It need to be parallel. It need to be vertical, right, to the occlusal plane. So in this position, as you can see, you see where is my central right there? You see where is the midline I'm following? And then another thing, I'm following the arch. I can go in a little bit. I can bring it in, or I can bring it out, or I can leave it on my line. That's my guidance. Remember, if I put it too much out of that line, what is going to happen? I'm increasing the buccal corridor.
Right.
Remember, when you're setting the other ones, they might move a little bit. So you always have to have, the good thing is you have the plate set. We go with the laterals. That's your 2 laterals right there. The canine, let's see how it goes, because this is very long, you know. Let's see, we have to grind it, maybe not. All right, so that's the canine. Now the canine, we have to tilt it a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. So it follows the long axis of the tooth is inclined a little bit.
Right.
We can do this. You see what is my canine guidance on from the 3 points of reference: midline, smile line, and canine line. The canine line is the one that you sometimes can be off by 1 millimeter. Because I mean, to find the right card with the right measurements, it's difficult sometimes. These ones are sometimes too wide, too big, too narrow. But we're not that far off. If you see, remember, buccal and lingual cusp should touch the plane, should make contact. I'm gonna set this area.
Please come to the front desk.
When I'm setting the first molar, I have to pay attention that the mesio-lingual cusp is the only touching the plane. It's the only cusp touching the plane.
Right.
And now the second molar. The second molar is the one that doesn't, it is off the plate. Now here is where you can, if you want to make it very pronounced, you can make it higher. That will be, that way it will be very well, you know, like the curve of speed will be very pronounced. But if you want to minimize it, you just have to bring that molar down. But you see the curve of speed already there? All right, so now I have the maxillary teeth set. I have them where I want them, okay? I'm ready to proceed and set the lower teeth. Now I don't need this occlusal plane anymore because this is dry, set, and firm. So I can remove this. So I got that. I proceed to do my, let's say I have a base plate there, but I'm gonna do one out of wax. Yes, what I'm doing here is simulating the base plate. So I start setting my second bicuspid first. Why? Because I want to create a bilateral balanced occlusion. That's the way you start it, setting the teeth in order to create that. So you know how this lower, so this occlude in the middle of the two bicuspids, of the two maxillary bicuspids. Right. So that is the position. You see the long axis of the tooth has to be like this, right? And then they occlude in between the two bicuspids. See where this cusp from the maxillary first molar is ending here? That's pretty much what you have to do on every single case when it comes to bilateral occlusion. So I'm not doing too much on that. I'm just following the upper arch. Now I can set my second. So I got that side set. I'm going to the other side. So it took me a few seconds to do that one, right? So you can do other things. You can do a mark. You can mark it. Now you know where to place it. I have the posterior set. I can go and set my first, the central. It's okay if you leave it touching, but a little bit, just like almost not touching, okay? And then 1 millimeter below inside, so it can go like more or less that area here from the inside, because you have to cover it, right? And you have to follow the midline, and they have to be a little bit tilted to the buccal, right? Then we go with the laterals. Now you set the canines. So it is, now that you have this set, is very easy. Sometimes you have to go back and move a little bit, but just a little bit. Like for example, this one right here. I'm not too happy about that opening. That means I probably have to go back and readjust it a little bit. The last one you set is this one, this tiny little first bicuspid. Why? Because this one, I will say, it's only there for aesthetic purpose. The functionality of this one is minimum. The ones that are more functionally are the canines and the first molars, in my opinion. But if you have if you follow the measurements of the birims, if you follow a nice mounting, if you do a properly fabricated occlusal rim, then this is what will happen. You will have to minimize you minimize the grinding, number one. I don't know if you have suffered when it comes to setting this little tiny one, you have to grind it distal initially to make it tiny, so it will fit there. In this particular case, look how nice it fits. Right? Now this one, I'm having a little issue with this side, right? This is the right side of the patient. See what's happening? It's not fitting. Right? So something is going on here. So I gotta figure it out. And probably what I can do is try to move them a little bit posteriorly, because I'm seeing another thing. See, this is where This is where my fossa is here, and this is where the cuspid is. I don't think they're lined together very well, like this side, like the left side. So let's move it, and then I have a better line. Look how I fix the position of this bicuspid. So look, this one right here, there's an opening right here. I can do two things. I can either grind a little bit here, or I can tilt it. So I'm gonna tilt it a little bit. Hold this is hard, you know, so we'll check the movements here. So we'll check if we have nice contacts here. So again, balancing side, working side. Okay, see that on that side, that's the left working side. I'll show you the right here. Okay, now this, it is the working side,
Right.
and we have the balancing side now on the left. As you can see, we have some work function there, right? That's good. Now we'll do protrusive. See? Now in protrusive, the anteriors need to touch edge to edge, and then the posteriors need to, the distal, we need to have this distal contacts on all posteriors. In some cases we don't have in this area here. It depends the anatomy of the teeth we're using. You go and remove one, you do one at a time. And this is what I used to do my waxing, my Festooning. I have a lot of wax in the teeth, right? And I want to remove it. How can I remove it in a quick way? So I go like this. And look, I'm creating the cervical line there by itself, you know, by what I'm doing here. See? Now they look short. I want it a little bit longer, so I go right. Okay. Now I have a lot of wax here. Oh, I need to remove it because this is a lot of wax. So now the B20 brush is, this is a B12. You can do a B20 as well. Yeah. What you do is you put a little bit slower speed. But right now you don't need to remove. You need to clean a little bit, right? Okay. And then you grab your favorite waxing instrument. To me is this one, pointy one. See, that's a nice carver. And then you'll do the cervical line. You go around the neck. It's important to do because when the case comes back from the trying, there is no wax in the teeth, and when you're processing, the teeth will come out very clean. No wax in the middle, right? Now, in order to remove all that, this is monomer, right? So I want to clean the teeth very well. I will have a dry one here. Okay, this. Now all these ones go to this, like this way, and this one as well, and then this one goes to the other way. And that's how you do like this is a normal wax up, you know, with a little bit of root indicators, you know.
Yeah.
But then you can do more carving, you know, more like the frenum marks.